Hey everybody, good morning. Happy Saturday. We made it to the weekend. Hope you guys are doing so well. It's a beautiful day where I live. Hope the same for you. I hope that your families are good. My family's doing great. I spoke with my parents yesterday, who as I told you, they've been traveling over Europe the past 3 weeks. So they got back. They're back home safe. So I'm really grateful for that. Really grateful that I got to talk to them last night and they had a good time. So I hope that you're doing well. Hope your family's doing well. Hope that your practice of data science is going well, because after all, that's what we talk about, right? We talk about data science here on this channel. So thank you so much for joining me. Really grateful to have you here. Really grateful for all the time we get to spend together. So I'm anticipating a couple of new viewers today. I posted this briefly in the Discord today. But I did have a little bit of attention on X last night. My followers on X have tripled, believe it or not, in one day. Yesterday I had like 1,000 followers. This morning I have nearly 5,000 followers. So it's more than triple. It's ridiculous. So I'm anticipating some new viewers on X. So if you're watching us on X, welcome. Good to have you here. And for all the new viewers, because I get new viewers on all the platforms, we always like to start off the streams with our global roll call, and that's where we invite you to participate by just letting us know your city, state, province, country. Just let us know where you're from. Just that way we can add to the community. We can understand the global nature of data science. And it's just a nice, easy way for you to participate with no pressure. No one's going to call on you. It's just go ahead and introduce yourself. And while we're doing the introductions, I also like to start off with an opening note. While you guys fill up my chat, I like to start off with an opening note where I kind of share some ideas with you, or just a general thought or something from my experience. And that's just something to help you guys think about different things, or maybe you want to comment on it. If you want to, give me a thought in the comments, that's perfectly okay too. But again, we do ask you to introduce yourself, city, state, province, country. And just, fill up my chat while I give my opening note. So unfortunately, yesterday we did have a little bit of a mistake on my part, where I had my mute button on my microphone. I wasn't able to share my opening note. So I want to try to repeat that opening note. So yesterday, so the opening note is, I want to give you 3 signs that you're joining a good data science team. Not every data science team out there is a good team, guys. Okay. I know most of you are anxious about your first job and you want to get working in the field right away, but not every team is a good team. Not every opportunity that comes across your way is a good opportunity. Okay. So I want you to keep that in mind, because you really need to kind of have a critical eye. Just as much as they're interviewing you, you should be interviewing them, as far as, who's part of the team and what they do for the company. Okay. So 3 signs you're joining a good data science team, or 3 signs you should look for. Okay. Number 1, what is their hiring process like, right? Is it a quick hiring process? Are they dragging it out? How many interviews are they putting you through? How many of those are tech interviews? All of that. You need to evaluate that and say, well, this is a company that's really making good decisions and is willing to move quickly, or this is a company that moves too slowly for my taste, right? You should be seeing the company moving at a pretty good pace in order to make sure that they're maintaining good candidates, because a good company knows that a good data candidate is not easy to find. So you should see them moving at a quick pace. I would imagine, I think that a better hiring process is only going to put you through 1 tech interview. If they can't get a tech screening from you, in a 30-minute interview, then that's a bad team, right? Don't join that team. So make sure that you are also aware of that, because, just as much as they're trying to assess you, they should also be able to assess you quickly. There shouldn't be a prolonged item there. I used to tell my bosses that if they gave me a candidate, I can tell in 10 minutes whether they have the tech skills or not. You can tell in their vocabulary, how they approach things, the rationale they explain to you. I just need 10 minutes to know whether you're a technically sound candidate or not, right? You don't need prolonged exams to be able to do these things, okay? So that's the first thing you should be looking for. Now, there is a caveat there. Some companies, by a matter of policy, because of HR policies or local regulations, they do have to put you through so many different interviews, right? Like, especially the higher up you go, the higher the position, the more they might say, well, we need a minimum of 6 people to interview you. And that's okay sometimes, right? Or, you should be looking for them to do that, but they should also be able to do that via panel interviews, right? Excuse me. So you could make an exception depending on the size of the company and the level of position they're giving you. Okay? That's the only caveat for that, but they should be quick about it. Item 2, does the company already have models in production? Very key, very key. So you should be asking during your interviews, how many models, how many data science models does your team have in production? Two reasons. One, it speaks to the abilities of the team, but more importantly, two, it speaks to whether that team is working within a greater organization that is truly data driven, right? Because just because they have a data science team doesn't mean they're listening to the data science team, doesn't mean they're making data driven decisions. And ultimately, that's kind of what you want, right? You want to work for a company that's making data driven choices, data driven policies and procedures, right? So you need to see that the data science team has had success in selling the company on those models and deploying the models, right? This is something I do plan to do more content on, but people think that, most of the newer data scientists that I speak with, they think that they're going to walk into a company and, hey, great, the data science team is here. This is fantastic. Show us what you got. Not everybody within a company is going to be receptive to data science policies. Not every company, or even every person within the company is going to be excited to have a data science, right? So you asking that question speaks to that team's ability to actually deploy models and be effective in what they do, right? So that's something that I think is super key that you need to kind of measure your team on, or measure the opportunity on. Okay? And then the last thing I'll tell you is that you should also be looking at who exactly are the leaders within the team. How strong is the chief data scientist? How strong is the lead scientist? The reason you should be asking about that is because it also speaks to the people that are going to be teaching you in the future, right? As I've mentioned in my content before, the data science is a learned profession. You're not going to learn everything in school. You have to learn things on the job as you go. That's just the nature of the work, right? So the chief data scientist, the lead data scientist, they're basically going to be your instructors, right? And that type of mentorship, that type of progression is going to have a big impact on your career. Maybe it'll cause you to stall out. Maybe they won't be teaching you. Maybe they're terrible mentors. What then, right? Nobody's going to be teaching you, then you're not progressing, right? And that's kind of key. So look out for those things. Look out to make sure that you have strong data scientists ahead of you, more senior than you, because you shouldn't just look at them as your bosses. You should be looking at them as your future teachers and then maybe mentors, right? That's very key in terms of your success in that role and the greater development of your overall career. Because again, if they're not willing to teach, they don't have the time, they're not very good at it, they just don't want to do it, which is also common, you're not progressing. You're kind of stuck, right? And you want to make sure that you're always progressing in your skills, learning new techniques, learning new approaches, learning how to advance your communication, how to advance your stakeholder engagement, all that stuff, right? So keep that in mind. 3 things that I would look for, during a job search. and I hope that helps you. But yeah, so that's it for the opening up. So I'd like to go back to my chat. Again, if you're just joining us, please let us know your city, state, province, country. I always ask people to introduce themselves that way. That way, you can participate. So please fill up my chat. Let me know where you're from, and look forward to hearing whatever questions you have today. All right. Okay, so let me start off at the very top with Yasso. Yasso, I think this is your first time joining us. Yasso says hi. Welcome, Yasso. Let us know where you're from, okay? I'm Sedant. Also, I think you're new. Says hi. Hi, I'm Sedant. Again, we ask people to introduce themselves, so just let me know where you're from. Gamudisa, our good friend Gamudisa, how are you? Thank you so much for your continued support. I'm telling you guys, nothing drives me more than seeing people coming back. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Gamudisa. Fatima, another return visitor from Meekness, Morocco. Hey Fatima, how are you? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well out there, Fatima. Let us know, is it hot in Meekness right now? I think it should be pretty cool weather out there. Let us know. Rex, our good friend Rex says, happy weekend everyone. It's beautiful and sunny in New York City. Oh yeah, yeah. Weekends like this are just amazing in New York City. I can't tell you, Rex, how much I wish I was back there. So for those of you who don't know, two things. One, Rex is one of our moderators, so thank you so much to Rex and the rest of my moderators. And two, I just moved back from the greater New York City area. I just moved back. I left there in March. So yeah, lots of nice weather things to miss about New York City, especially this time of year. This time of year is beautiful. So glad to see you're doing well at the Rex. Hopefully you get outside for some activities. Louis Burr says hi from Paris. Oh, very cool, Louis. Paris has obviously been in the news quite a bit this summer, with both the Olympics and the Paralympic Games. Obviously, a lot of inspiring stories coming out of both of those games. I was really inspired. I'm sorry that I forget the lady's name, but if you guys missed it, there was a female long-distance runner who managed to get a medal in the 5,000, the 10,000 kilometers, and the marathon. 3 medals in 3 very serious distance events. She ended up winning gold in the marathon. And it was the first time it's been done in, I think, over 100 years. It hasn't even been attempted in 40 years because it's viewed as being so difficult to do that. The athletes don't try it because you might try 3 events and then come away with nothing because, it's just too much of a feat to do. But yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from the Paris Games, because that was a really inspiring story that she would do that. But hope you're doing well out there, Louis. Paris is a beautiful city. I've been lucky to visit there. Would love to go back. So hope you're doing well out there. And thanks for joining us. I believe it's your first time. Servan, our good friend Servan says, hey Dennis, good morning. Well, good morning to you too, Servan. Hope you're doing well. It's so good to have consistent supporters like you. Thank you. Louis, I'm going to come back to your question. I want to make sure I get to all the introductions, okay? But I'm going to come back to your question. Remind me if I forget. Rex, I'm going to come back to your question. Manoj, our good friend Manoj. Good morning, Dennis and all. Hope everyone is doing well. Manoj from Bangalore, India. Nice to see you, Manoj. Another fantastic supporter. So glad to see you here, Manoj. Hope you're doing well. Gamudis, I'm going to come back to your question. Hey, all right. We have a participant from X, just as I had predicted, guys. I'm sorry, I don't read Arabic well enough to be able to determine your name. So if you want to tell us your name, or maybe your name is Izzo from Sudan, or is Izzo a city in Sudan? I'm sorry that I don't know enough of my cities in Sudan, but I'm going to say that your name is Izzo from Sudan. So welcome, Izzo. Glad you're here. And welcome on X. I'm anticipating some participation on X, guys. So yeah, welcome to anybody participating on X. And also welcome to people watching us on X. Because I do think I am seeing quite a few viewers on X. Satyam, our good friend Satyam says, hey Dennis from rainy Delhi, India. Oh, is it rainy out there? Okay, cool. I imagine that it's still monsoon season out there, right? Isn't like the summer, fall, the monsoon season in India? So hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying dry. Okay. Shank is in the building. Okay, that sounds so like ominous. That's so threatening. Shank is in the building. All right, Shank says, "Good morning from Nepal." Okay, cool. More people from Nepal. You are, believe it or not, you are not our first viewer from Nepal. You are at least our third or fourth viewer from Nepal. So yeah, I'm a pretty big deal in Nepal, guys. Good to see people from all over the world. Thanks so much. You know, guys, I still got to get a map. I'm still thinking of a map. I got to get something that I can show you guys, and we can put a pin every time we have a follower from that area, right? I want to do that. I'm still coming with ideas. Look, give me some ideas in the comments if you have that. Like I need a map here. Oh, I guess I need a map or something where we can put in the pins, because I love seeing people from all over the world. That's the beauty of data science, right? Everybody's interested in data science. Fatima tells us it's still sunny in Meekness. Yeah, but is it warm? Because it can be sunny without being warm, right? I'm curious if it's warm either, because I know Meekness is inland, right? So it's not. I know it's nowhere near the beach, so I imagine it's getting a little cooler, but who knows? So Satyam says yes, it's the monsoon season in Delhi. Okay, cool, good to know. Patil, we always ask people to introduce themselves. So guys, I'm seeing a lot of viewers on Instagram and some viewers on my X. So I know a lot of you are new. So we always ask people to introduce themselves. Just let us know your city, state, province, country. That way we can kind of keep the chat professional. We can keep people, practicing on how to present themselves. These things are very important when you're a scientist in an organization, right? If you don't know how to present yourself properly, then it's really hard to take your ideas, your algorithmic ideas seriously, right? From the business perspective, right? And also it's a good way to participate. I like to keep the chat inclusive. I don't want people to feel like they have to ask a great question or anything else. Just keep it all inclusive. Keep people participating. Okay. All right. So Lewis, let me see. Yeah. Actually, Yassine, I think I might have missed your introduction. I'm sorry. I don't see your. I don't think I hit your introduction. If I missed it earlier, I'm sorry. Yassine, speaking of great supporters, Yassine from Tangier, Morocco, thanks so much for being here, Yassine. Really appreciate your support. Hope you're doing well in your classes out there. All right, so Lewis from Paris asked, how to act in a development team as an ML engineer where political decisions are made rather than scientific decisions for product development. Yeah, Lewis, that's a great question. That's a really good question. So I'm not 100% sure what you mean by political decisions, because that can mean a lot of things. And I'm wondering if by political decisions, you're also talking about some financially driven decisions, because financially driven decisions are not going to be rare when you work in data science. Okay. So yeah, for everybody in the chat, I think Lewis is bringing up a really good question here, and I've spoken a little bit about this before, but it's a good topic that deserves more attention. So I know that when you're in school, or you're doing your Kaggle competitions or things like that, you're hyper focused on the best accuracy, the best F1 scores, the best results to beat other people on the Kaggle leaderboard or things like that, okay? But guess what? Real world data science isn't like that. In fact, in many cases, it's, I'll go as far to say that in many cases, it's not like that, okay? Here's what I mean by that. When you're walking into a business, they're not really concerned about the numbers that you're giving them. That's not how they're measuring you. They're measuring you in dollars and cents, right? So they're more concerned about what your algorithmic results mean from a dollar and cents perspective. And on top of that, keep in mind that you're also walking into a scenario that doesn't have a current, in a lot of cases, that where there is no algorithmic process, right? So let's talk about that second scenario first. If there is no algorithmic process and if there's no algorithmic process for you to baseline against, and you come up with a model that improves that process in a tangible way, let's say 10%, right? That might be fantastic to the stakeholders, right? Does that make your model good? No, you probably don't have to come up with a great model to improve something 10%, right? But if there's no existing process, then that might be okay with them, right? So think about this scenario. You're walking into a client, they don't have anything to help them with their sales leads. Let's just say it's some sort of sales process. You're working on a contract for them. You're going to come in, look at and try to come up with an algorithm to improve their sales process. In your first iteration, your very first iteration, kind of like a baseline iteration or whatever, you can prove that you raised their sales by 15%, right? Well, guess what? They might cut your contract right there. And they might say, great, we're happy with that. You're costing us a lot of money, right? You're costing us half the profits we would gain in the first year. So go away, contract's over, and we'll use the 15% model. And they'll say that because, again, they don't have a current process. And two, it might have taken them 10 years to improve 15%. And now you can improve them 15% in 1 year? That's fantastic to them, right? So, as a business decision, they might be okay with a model that, isn't so great on your part. Like, that's a valid business decision, right? They could look at you and say, yeah, this is fantastic, but you're also costing us $10,000 a month. So, thank you, goodbye, and we'll just use this model. That can happen. That's a totally viable process, right? Here's the second scenario. Let's say you come up, and again, I'm referring to, all the stuff you do on your own in school, Kaggle, all that stuff. You're looking for perfection, right? But in the real world, your models make mistakes, right? The false positives and false negatives, type 1 errors, type 2 errors, right? In most scenarios, you can assign dollar values to those errors, right? Like, let's take credit card processing, right? Let's say you are asked to come up with a fraud detection model for credit card charges. Well, there's two types of errors, right? You could let a fraudulent transaction pass through as being valid, or you could block a legitimate transaction and block it as being invalid, as being fraud, right? Okay, but in that first scenario, letting a fraudulent transaction go through as valid, that has a serious dollar value attached to it, right? That could be like a $2,000 transaction. Okay, well, that stinks. In the other scenario, a legitimate customer gets rejected because gets a valid transaction rejected as fraud. Well, the cost there is like an inconvenience to your customer, right? You're going to have a frustrated customer. Maybe it costs you a little bit because they have to call in the 1-800 line and they're going to be mad. But the dollar value is small, right? Like, it's an inconvenience customer, but they're probably not going to leave. It didn't cost you $2,000. It's not going to cost you anywhere near $2,000, right? So, like, the choice is clear, right? The company is going to actively ask you to come up with a model that is biased towards preventing those false positives, right? Because the false positives, you can say a false positive costs us $2,000, whereas the false negative costs us, an inconvenienced customer, right? So that's like a huge imbalance there. So they're not going to ask you to go for perfection. They're going to ask you to actively go after the biased model. Right? I mean, the biased model is going to be the more profitable model. Right? And again, these are things that nobody's out there is talking about, right? Nobody's really going to tell you that, right? So it sounds like Lewis has some experience in the field, right? And these are the types of things that you're gonna run into out there, right? Because there are going to be scenarios where you're thinking to yourself, man, that's really not a great model. We did our best on it, but we have so much more to do on it. And the business is going to say, nope, this is great. We're stopping here, move on to the next thing. And yeah, we're happy with this. And you're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, what? But that's what the business wants. And ultimately, you guys serve the business. And that's what it comes down to, right? So Lewis, I think that's a longer answer than you were anticipating. Let me know if I missed anything. But it's going to happen, Lewis. It's going to happen. So totally standard as far as I'm concerned. I understand that it may be frustrating and it may be nonsensical. But you got to look at it from the business perspective, right? So yeah, that's my answer to you, Lewis. Great question. Appreciate the question, guys. Rex says, that's an awesome opening note. Good thing we didn't miss it. Yeah, so if you guys don't know what Rex is referring to there, yesterday I tried to give the same opening note, but somehow the mute on my microphone had become active. Maybe when I moved my microphone over, because I keep my microphone to the side over here when I'm done with it. I must have hit the mute button or something. But yeah, that was kind of funny yesterday. But don't worry, guys. I am a trained media professional here. Let me see who's next. So Gamudisa says, the problem is when you don't find any roles that accept you, so you have to take whatever is offered to you. Yeah, Gamudisa, I hear you on that. That's definitely a threat to the opening note I gave. I get that. But, that's one of those things where you have to decide what is best for your career, right? You have to decide and say, well, no, this isn't really going to be the best situation for me, so I better not do it. And then you have to have the confidence to say, well, if I got this job, I can get another job, right? Because if you got to that stage, to that offer stage, then you're doing something right. That means, your resume is on the right track, your experience is on the right track, right? Like you didn't get that offer by mistake, right? So so I get it. It's scary. I understand where you're coming from, but you have to, have that realization and also kind of that maybe this isn't the best word, but you kind of have to have that self-worth to say, well, no, this is probably not the best situation for me, right? This is probably not ideal for me, for me as a person, for what's best for me. So I'm going to take a pass and I'm going to, keep on looking, right? So it really, maybe, and maybe I wouldn't have said that earlier in my career. Maybe this is something that comes with a maturity in your career or something else, right? So I can appreciate that. But you have to have that sense of where you want your career to go and what's going to be best for your career, right? And again, if you got that job, if you got that offer, you should be able to, have the confidence to say, well, I can get another one. It's going to take me some time. Maybe I need to fine tune a couple things. But if I got here, I can get here again, right? That's a healthy attitude to have in your life, right? Whether it's in relationships or with other accomplishments you want to do, right? You're making progress. So I hear you, I hear you that, it's very tempting to just jump at the first thing that comes across. But be careful. Be careful. Okay? Do what's best for you in your career. So Patil, I believe it's your first time. Welcome. Patil says, I'm from India. Okay, what part of India? People just say India. You know, that I gotta tell you guys, when people just tell me India or just mention a country, it seems like disrespectful, right? Because like every country is so big and beautiful and diverse that you can't just say like a single country. You gotta say like what part you're from, right? Like you gotta be part. You gotta be proud of your locality, right? Not just the country, right? So what part of India? Patil says how to learn Pacific Way Python. I'm not sure what Pacific Way Python is. Can you explain that a little more? Let me know in the comments, Patil, okay? Sorry guys, give me just a second here. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit of allergies this time of year. Satyam says about the rain in Delhi, roads are blocked, drains failed. Oh, that stinks. That stinks. Sorry about that. That really stinks. Casual Economist, our good friend Casual Economist, happy Saturday, lovely day in Minneapolis. Well, nice to see you here, Casual Economist. You know, guys, Casual Economist started watching me like 2 weeks ago. Just happened to see a YouTube recommendation, and now he's a daily viewer. So I'm so grateful for that. You know, it just really encourages me when people come back and, you know, and participate. Really appreciate you. So Fatima says, exactly, it's inside and it's still hot. Have you visited Morocco before? Yes, I have. I've been to a couple cities in Morocco. A lot of them I can't remember because I'm an old man and I forget things. But yes, I've spent a bit of time in Morocco. My goal is to visit all 7 continents. Up until 2023, I had only visited 5. I hadn't visited Africa yet. So I had a business trip to London. And I thought, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity to go and visit Africa. And I decided to go from London to London to Casablanca. Or was it Marrakesh? I can't remember what city I flew into. I think maybe it was Marrakesh. I can't remember. But I got to visit, that was the first time I went to Morocco. And I visited a couple cities since then. And what else was it? Yeah, so that was my 6th continent. So now I only have Antarctica left. I'm trying to go to Antarctica sometime in the next 2 to 3 years. And then I will have visited all 7 continents, which I will be very proud of, you know, as a life achievement. But I want to go visit Antarctica. I haven't done that. That trip takes a lot of planning. But yeah. So been fortunate to visit many countries in the world. I consider myself to be very blessed to be able to do that. So yeah, I know Morocco a little bit, and I have promised that I will never speak Darija on this stream because my Darija is terrible, and all of you will make fun of me on this chat. So you guys are gonna have to, you know, put up a collection or some big prize to hear my Darija, but you're never gonna hear me speak Darija on this. Let me just make sure I get everybody else. Shilpa, remind us where you're from. I know it's not your first time, but remind us where you're from, Shilpa. Manga, welcome. Another visitor on X. I'm telling you guys, I'm anticipating more people on X. I had something very special happen overnight on X. It blew my mind this morning when I woke up. So Manga, welcome so much. Really great to see the participation on X. Tuning in on my first session. Greetings from Mombasa, Kenya. Nice, very cool. Very cool. We get a couple of people from Kenya on my stream, but it's really good to see you, Manga. Really good to see you. Shilpa says from Winnipeg. Ah, yes, my Manitoba friend. That's right. That's right. Welcome, Shilpa. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. All right, so Satyam. Satyam asks, hey, Dennis, have you checked out the new ChatGPT old model isn't it we are going too fast on AL models without proper understanding and regulating it? Ooh, oh my God, great question, Satyam. Great question. So much to unpack in your question. I love these types of questions. So as I mentioned yesterday, one of my challenges, right, and this is a personal challenge, is that I am so busy with the content creation and my clients and my personal interests and my family, all these things I have going on, that I need to make more time to keep up with all the developments, right? Because I just haven't been able to explore these. I just really haven't. So I can't give you an intelligent and educated answer on this because I'm not speaking from experience. And you know me, I only speak from my experience, guys. So the answer is that I don't know. I need to do more research. I need to educate myself further, and I don't want to comment. But yeah, the second part of your question is, are we going too fast without proper understanding and regulations? Yeah, absolutely, that's a risk. I completely agree with you. The companies will obviously tell you that they're doing testing and they put out these benchmarks and all this other nonsense that they do. But yeah, I mean, there's really no way to measure hallucinations, right? I mean, hallucinations are still kind of like a very individual thing, like almost like a niche thing, right? So yeah, I think there's definitely a risk in that speed, in that development. And then, there's also the issues of intellectual property, right? Where, OpenAI is clearly, and the other LLM, I don't want to single out OpenAI, but these companies are clearly, doing scraping exercises, which, may not be ethical. I certainly don't always agree with it. But yeah, absolutely, it can be risky. I totally understand why, you would raise this question. But here's the thing, and here's something I want everybody in the chat to think about. And if you want, give me some comments because this is something that I think about, guys, okay? And in fact, I have some content coming up on this. It's on my list. So Satyam, let's think about the meta point in your question, because I think there's a very interesting meta point. If you've followed machine learning in the past, and I'm not just talking LLMs, I'm talking machine learning in general. What I have observed is that once you reach a certain baseline model for a machine learning problem, at some point, it really just becomes a matter of how much hardware can you throw at it, right? Like, there's a reason why Google also has a supercomputing division, because, at some point, a model is just like a function of how many processors do you have available to improve the model, right? Like, that's a common thing. I'll give you guys a real world example. So the real world example from that is if you look at poker, right? If you follow the different machine learning algorithms that beat poker, they went from beating a single player to beating a table full of players in like a year, right? Because once you had that baseline model, getting to be able to beat a full table of players is just a matter of processing, right? I understand that the models had some fundamental differences. I read the white papers, right? But at some point, it's about the processing power, because the algorithms can sit there and teach themselves over and over 24/7, 365, right? Never get tired, never gets bored, right? Same thing if you go to YouTube and you look at the Google documentary about Alpha. I believe it's called AlphaGo, right? And how it beat the world champion, Lee Sedol, I believe his name is, right? They went from a baseline learn how to play Go model to a world-class player in like months. Like, I think it was like 6 months. And then it went on to beat like the top players in like another 6 months or something like that, right? Because they use reinforcement learning, and again, once you're doing reinforcement learning, it's just a matter of processing power, right? So knowing all of this, I got excited when I first saw ChatGPT, not for where it was, but for the potential of where it could be, right? Because you know that in a year it's going to be like amazing, right? So the meta view and what you're saying, Satyam, should basically give all of us pause. Because this is part of what I mean when somebody tells me that, oh, I'm a software engineer, ChatGPT can't replace me. That's stupid. That's incredibly dumb because they don't have the foresight to see where ChatGPT is going to be, not even in a year, like 6 months, right? The power in models is how quickly they learn. It's not the model itself. If you're looking at the model, you've already lost. It's about how quickly they learn, right? So that's what I'm excited about. And then, like I said in one of my videos recently, you know, the things that keep me up at night is knowing that tomorrow there could be an announcement where somebody, you know, OpenAI, whoever, says, hey, we solved data science, we solved coding, we just came up with this brand new LLM that does nothing but data science. Like, guys, that could totally happen, right? Like, the models learn that quickly. Like, they learn fast. So Satyam, that's what I love. That's what I love about your question, that you're making that observation, and we should all be making the observation. The observation on the speed I'm referring to, right? Because if you look at if you're looking at a model right now, and you lack that vision, then you're that dinosaur chewing on the plants that doesn't realize those plants aren't going to be there next year, right? So I think that's the meta view in your question, that we should all be concerned about the speed at which they learn. These models will learn fast. So the speed you're observing, Satyam, it's by design. It's literally just capped by how many GPUs are in your data center. It's not a question of technology. It's not a question of math. Well, it's kind of a question of math because of the computations, which causes the requirements. But like at some point, you just let the model fly, right? Like, you know, that's one of the fun things, right? That like when you learn about neural networks, like it's one of the very, 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 very rare problems in all of computer science where you actually can throw more hardware at it, right? Like if you got, like, I know we have some computer science majors in the chat, right? Or computer science people in the chat, like that's your background. What's the number one rule, right? Write efficient code because you don't want to have to solve your problems by hardware, right? Hardware can't solve your problems, right? That's day one of computer science school, right? Well, neural networks break that. Neural networks you can improve by throwing more hardware at it. And that's basically the speed that you're referring to there, Satya. They will progress fast because it's hardware. At some point, it's just a hardware problem, right? So yeah, I mean, so again, great question. Lots to unpack there. I could talk about this all day, but I want everybody in the chat to take that meta view. If you're looking at the model today, you've lost. You've already lost. It's about the speed. It's about the speed at which they're going to learn. Okay. So again, watch my video from last week. AI can't replace me was the big thumbnail, right? Whenever you see those influencers out there, because I know those idiots are out there. Whenever you see them saying, oh no, I'm a software engineer, they can't replace me. I'm a data scientist, I can't be replaced. They're dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs chewing on those plants, right? They saw the meteor hit. They just didn't understand it. They didn't understand that the skies being dark meant those plants aren't going to be there next year. So when you see those influencers, keep that in mind because they don't get it. They just don't get it. Rex says, yeah, I found the AlphaGo story so inspired. Yes. Yeah. If you guys don't know, again, go to YouTube, search for AlphaGo. I think it's called AlphaGo, the Lee Sedol story, or something like that. If you don't know it, you got to go see it. Rex, I wrote an entire article for my past clients just on that documentary. And I made a case for how Lee Sedol could have won. I found a loophole in how he could have won. In fact, I found 2 loopholes in how he could have won. So guys, that might be, I wonder if we could do like a watch party or something. All right, guys. So chat, listen up. If you want to get my attention, if you want me to do a resume review for you, or you want to show me that you're serious, go look at the AlphaGo documentary and come back and tell me 2 ways that Lee Sedol, the human in the video, right? He's the world Go champion, considered to be the greatest human Go champion ever. Tell me 2 ways he could have won. I found 2 ways that he could have won. Let me know. You want to show me you're serious about data science? You want one-on-one attention from me? You want a resume review? Go look at that video. Tell me the 2 ways Lee Sedol could have won. All right? We need to read that article. Is there a link to it? No, Rex, I wrote that internally, unfortunately. So that has to stay with the company. But I'm willing to discuss it as far as like my findings in it. Maybe I could do like a watch party. I don't know if it'd be legal to show that or not, like on a stream. But if you guys you want to impress me, you want to get my attention, tell me 2 ways Lee Sedol could have won, okay? I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I believe it was Lee Sedol. Sam Morales says, Dennis, greetings from Mexico. Good morning, Sam. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Rex says, 1 way Sedol could have won was unplugging the machine. Oh, that's funny. That's funny, Rex. You're on the right track. Obviously, the answer is not to unplug the machine. But there are actions that Sedol could have taken. Okay, that's all the clues I'm going to give you. There are actions that I think he could have taken. Okay? Gamudisa says, you play chess, Dennis? I do. I'm terrible at it. I am a terrible chess player. I can't even break 1,000. That's how terrible I am. But yeah, I play chess, sure. Yeah, Sid Fields, welcome on Twitch. Let us know where you're from, Sid. We always invite people to introduce themselves. I know there's other questions, so let me stick to this topic. Satyam says, yes, they are investing billions on hardware architecture too, like the Microsoft 100 billion Stargate AI supercomputer and advancements in NVIDIA silicon. Yeah, and there's reasons for that, right? Because they already have the base model. It's just a matter of processing power. To kind of put an emphasis on that, many years ago, okay? Because I know that it's advanced quite a bit since then. But many years ago, I had read an article that was talking about Google supercomputing. And the question was, well, why are they investing so much? And they talked about how it's because what I just described, they had good models that literally just needed more processing power. And the example they gave was that, I don't know if you guys know this, but this was back in the 2016 time period. Okay? That's 8 years ago, guys. In 2016, Google said that they perfected algorithmic production of the human voice. They had conducted tests where they would produce a human voice track and an AI generated or a machine learning generated voice track. And they could play it to humans, and humans couldn't tell the difference. They could do that. They had that technology in 2016, guys. That's 8 years ago, right? The problem was that it took 4 days. It was something like, no, I think it was 5 days. It took 5 days to generate 4 seconds of audio. That's how big the model was. It was a massive, I think they said it was a neural network. I mean, presumably it is. But it was a massive neural network. And it took 5 days for 4 seconds of perfect audio. So in other words, it had like no real-time uses, right? And really no uses, right? Because, I mean, who has 4 seconds of audio, right? You usually have hours and hours of audio, right? So they knew they had like the algorithm down. They just literally didn't have the processing power, right? That has changed a lot in 8 years, right? But they're not the only company that's suffering from that, right? That was a common problem then, and that's still a common problem now. You know, just the models are bigger now, right? But, you know, that's what got me started thinking about all this, because, you know, if you read the stuff that's out there, you know, you can get to a baseline model. When you're a Google or a Meta, you can get to these advanced, really good, really strong models. They're just capped by the processing power. Like they literally hit a ceiling due to physical hardware, not to the quality of the model, right? So I mean, think about that. Google's been sitting on that algorithm for 8 years simply because it just takes too long to generate 4 seconds. So, you know, there's a reason why they are, you know, investing so much now in the hardware, because they know they're capped. They know that that's like the current race, right? The race isn't for the PhDs. The race isn't for, you know, who can work with neural networks better. The race is not for white papers. The race is for hardware right now. I mean, that's really where we're at with it. Sid Field says, I'm from India. Welcome, Sid. Nice to see you. I know it's your first time. I love getting more engagement on Twitch. So yesterday, guys, we crossed 50 users on Twitch. This is awesome. And I do like 0 effort to Twitch. All I do is push out my stream. I have a great moderator in Rex, but otherwise it's crazy. It's crazy. Satyam says, like putting stones in between tile. I don't know what that means, Satyam. Bishwas, did we get where you're from? Let us know where you're from, Bishwas. And yes, guys, sometimes I miss your chats because, you know, we get good questions and I like to stay on that theme, you know, as people comment on that question. So, you know, I do my best to try to get everybody. I always try to go back and, you know, revisit everybody's chat. So bear with me. You know, there's a lot of people in the chat, guys. Yes, let me go back. I know I skipped a few. Lewis says, thank you very much for your answer. Yeah, you're welcome, Lewis. Just trying to help. Just trying to help. Demodisa says, thanks for a great answer. Very touching. What was your question? Oh, right. About taking any role. Yep. Okay, so Yassine asked, can you please give an idea about how much reinforcement learning is used in data science for the business field? You know, Yassine, this is a question that I can answer, but you have to understand that my answer is biased based on my past experiences, right? If you ask somebody else, maybe they'll give you a different answer. But in my experience, reinforcement learning is not really used as much as you think, and not as they would teach it in school. Because, you know, when they teach it to you in school, right, they teach it to you as one of the fundamental methods to how to build a model, right? I mean, they'll tell you there's supervised model, unsupervised models, and reinforcement learning models, right? A lot of curriculums will teach you that those are the 3 fundamentals, pillars, whatever you want to say, of data science. I have not always found that to be true. I mean, yes, obviously you can use reinforcement learning that way, but it's not common. Here's where I think academics is wrong on this. If I deploy a model, a supervised model, doesn't matter. If I deploy a model and I also built in logging, or I collect feedback from my users and say, hey, every time that model gives you a wrong answer, let me know. Right? I give them a spreadsheet for them to fill out and they can tell me what went wrong with the model, right? If I take that feedback 3 months later and I say, cool, I'm going to add this to my Gold Master training data because a human gave it to me, right? That's human feedback. I'm going to add it to my Gold Master data. I'm going to retrain my model and I'm going to deploy a new version of that model. Is that reinforcement learning? Academics would tell you no. I think it is. Why is that not reinforcement learning? I've taken my model, new data has entered the arena. I'm showing that new data to my model and I'm standing up a new model. So the academics would tell you, well, it's not reinforcement learning because you're doing it later in time. Right? Because it's not the pure definition of reinforcement learning that a model sits there and teaches itself. Well, who cares? Right? Like what does the time element have to do with it? A model's a model. And you're going to come across many situations where the data isn't used or the model isn't used often enough for reinforcement learning, right? Because reinforcement learning assumes that the data is going to be coming in at a certain speed, right? Well, what if you have a model that's only used on a monthly basis? Or for like some sort of accounting, month-end process, or a quarterly basis? What then? So for me, like that's reinforcement learning, right? Anytime I'm collecting human feedback, or however you go about it, anytime you're collecting feedback from the model and pumping it back in, that's reinforcement learning. Again, the academics would tell you, no, because, you already deployed a model and it's months. That's bullshit, right? So, yeah, I've used it, but not in the way that maybe you're taught in school, right? So, yeah, that's my answer to you, seeing that I've used it, but not in the traditional way. I have seen very few instances where you're going to see it used in that strict way of like building up a model from zero. There's really just not enough situations that need that type of model. It just doesn't happen as much as you think it does. Okay? Let me know if that helped you, Yassine. Shilpa asks, what is the typical duration for data science projects in the industry? There is no typical duration. It all depends. Everything is unique, right? How much data? Where is the data? How accessible is it? How big does a model need to be? Too many variables to answer. Too many variables. Joseph says, happy Saturday, Dennis and everyone. Hey, good morning, Joseph. Good to see you. Sid Fields, what are we discussing today? We can discuss whatever you want, Sid. After we do our introductions, after people let us know where they're from, I take all questions and we just talk about whatever comes up, Bishwas says, hi, I'm from Nepal. Welcome, Bishwas. Nice to see you. Thank you for introducing yourself. I think you asked a question. Hi, I have recently found your channel. I want to know how much you already taught about data science in your live sessions. Bishwas, great question. So most of my teaching, like the formal teaching, has come from this book. And guys, I keep on bringing up this book because if you don't know this book, you should. This book is the Bible of professional data science. Forget everything else out there. Forget the idiot influencers. You got to buy my course. This is where professional data science begins. So I taught this book. We went 8 sessions, 20 hours of content, guys. It still blows my mind to say that. 20 hours of content. But yeah, if you wanna check out those sessions, I see you're on YouTube, so go to my YouTube playlist. I have a whole playlist. I also run it on a media loop overnight, so you're welcome to watch the media loop. And I now have my Sundays free, so now I'm gonna start teaching other things. So on Sundays, I'm gonna start, doing different tutorials. This Sunday, I'm gonna do something. Tomorrow, I'm gonna do something on GPU versus CPU. So we're gonna see where that goes. I like doing all my teaching live. I don't do any pre-recorded teaching. That's so boring, so boring. I'd rather kill myself than pre-record data science content. But yeah, you're welcome to come, and then also you can come daily. 1500 GMT. I take all questions. As you can see from the chat, you guys can ask me about anything. I'd like to think I know what I'm talking about, so maybe I can answer your question, maybe I can't. But I'm giving you the stuff that none of these other experts out there can give you, because I'm giving you real world stuff. I'm not a faceless video. I don't have ChatGPT make my content like the other idiots. So yeah, you're welcome to come by anytime, Bishwas. All right, so Gamadisa says, that's really insane. Kind of explains why NVIDIA is growing faster and faster in terms of stock. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely speaks to their growth. But, there's other GPU companies out there. There's other techniques out there, right? There's some very early white papers coming out about reducing the processing time needed for neural networks. So who knows? Although I guess I should disclose, I do own a little bit of NVIDIA stock. Just to make sure, I'm not violating anything, but I think there's reasons to be bullish about NVIDIA, and there's reasons to still be cautious about NVIDIA, right? But yeah, you never know. Sid Fields says, will you be diving into a bit technical, like how they applied RL to LLMs and OpenAI? Excuse me, guys. Maybe. If you want to ask a question, and if I can help you, I'll try. But we'll see. As the visual ML works on patterns, just misplace the stone to confuse the model for a few seconds. Maybe. I think it would take more than a couple of stones to confuse a model like that, Satyam. I'm not claiming to be an expert on computer vision, but my understanding of computer vision models as far as how they pre-process the data and how they break out the images should already account for something like that, right? Like, just because you wear glasses doesn't mean a facial recognition model doesn't work, right? So I think it takes more than just a couple of stones in your analogy. But let me know, guys. Like I said, I'm not claiming to be a computer vision expert. I know enough to be dangerous, right? But my understanding is that it would take more than that, Seth. Connect Fanny, good to see you again, my friend. How are you? Good to see you. There's a lot of people from Morocco here. Yeah, there are. But you know what? This is not my record. At one point, we had like 8 people from Morocco in the chat. I was seriously like, okay, who isn't from Morocco in my chat? And I don't know why that is, guys. I think it has to do with a lot of young people in Morocco compared to other countries. So I should expect that, from the countries that aren't having the challenges around birth rates. I'm gonna get more of an audience from those countries. And generally speaking, Northern Africa is doing well with birth rates, right? But yeah, you're not the first person to make that observation. For some reason, Moroccans love data science. What can I say? Yassine says, thank you, sir. Very helpful. We actually don't have it in our program. I thought it because the program is focused on the business field and wanted to take your idea on whether to learn it or not. Yassine, there's not a lot to learn, right? I mean, people like to make a big deal of reinforcement learning, but reinforcement learning happens anytime you show the model where it went right and where it went wrong, right? So deploy a model, any model, no matter how you built it. Make sure you're getting feedback from your human users, or in some models you can do it automatically, right? You know, depending on the data and all that. Collect the feedback and feed it back into the model. You know, how is that not reinforcement learning, right? So, I mean, there's not a lot to it. It's basically like model maintenance, right? The key is you got to build in the feedback mechanisms, right? A lot of people just put the model out there and then they don't care. That's terrible. That's a bad idea, right? That's gonna bite you at some point. But you know, there's not a lot to it. Like I don't think you need a dedicated class on it. It's just about collecting the feedback and making sure you have a cycle that takes it back into your model, back into your training data. That's it. That's all there is to it. Again, the academics will argue about the timing of it all, but the timing doesn't make any difference. I mean, the model doesn't know. The model is math, right? So yeah, don't worry about it. You'll get it. You know, there's not a lot to it. Not a lot to it. Sam says, in Mexico, we are starting in this field and every day increase the people interested in the topic. Yeah, I see that. I see that in a lot of countries, and we all should be interested in it. Absolutely. So it's good to hear that, Sam. You know, we should all be encouraging that because, you know, whether you like it or not, AI and data science is part of the future. It's going to affect everybody and every job out there. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that's happening in Mexico, and I hear it happening more and more across multiple countries. So yeah, good to hear that. All right, guys, really appreciate all of your support. Really appreciate all of you being here. It's so wonderful to be able to spend time with all of you and be able to just, you know, talk data science. I'm really grateful to be able to do this. Really grateful for all of your support in the community. Like I said, I had something really special happen on X last night. So just really humbling that I get to do this. Again, guys, from my perspective, I'm just sitting here alone talking into an old iPhone, just so I you know, just doing what I love, guys. So really appreciate all of you. Hey, tomorrow, I'm gonna do another one of my instructionals, GPU versus CPU. I've never done this before, guys. I'm taking a massive risk. For all I know, the class is gonna be 10 minutes because I'm gonna fail miserably. But let's do it. I love doing these things live. So I will see you tomorrow. Hope you can join us. Join our Discord if you'd like. A pinned message in there, in your chats. But you know, lots of things happening in the world. So please take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.